Per request, this is the tutorial on how to make these strappy gloves. I make them out of just a regular long sleeve shirt, and I cut off both the long sleeves. I make sure to cut on the inside of the seam, and I do the same thing on the cuff so that I'm left with just a long tube with one seam down the middle. I then cut slits all the way down the sleeve, making sure not to cut all the way through until the bottom. Then you're left with a whole bunch of open circles with a seam down the middle. Then I cut them where the seam is. It doesn't really matter on which side because it's going to get cut off anyways later on. Once you cut all the circles open, you can grab each side and pull until it's almost stringy. And I just keep pulling each side all the way down the glove until you're left with a whole bunch of straps. You're going to find the two matching straps at one of the ends and tie it around your middle finger. You can either have somebody else do this or I just did it with my teeth. It's just a simple double knot, and you want to make sure it's not too tight around your finger, but you want to also make sure that the knot is super secure. The next pair of straps that I'll tie are the ones around the wrist. I recommend putting the one on your middle finger and using that as a gauge to see where your wrist hits, and then just tying it around your wrist right there. That way you don't have to guess which straps match up with your wrist. So the only two ties that you're left with right now is the one around your middle finger and the one around your wrist. Then you're going to cut off all of the loose straps between the middle finger tie and the wrist tie, but make sure you still leave that thick fabric between the two that holds them together. It should look something like this at this point with a whole bunch of straps hanging off the back. Next is my favorite step. All you do is just tie each strap all the way down your arm as far as it goes. Make sure you tie the matching straps and you don't miss any. Also, make sure that each knot is super secure. I pulled so hard with my teeth on each of those knots. Then all you have to do is just cut off the little hanging bits on each of the knots until you're left with just the knot itself. This is why it's super important to make them tight, because if they're loose, they will come apart at this stage. The tighter they are, the closer you can cut to the knot, and the closer you can cut to the knot, the cooler the glove is going to look because it won't have any of those hanging bits. Once you cut them all off, you should be left with something like this, and all you do is just stick your arm through each of the little holes, and then put your middle finger through the last one, and then you'll be left with a little strappy glove that looks like this. I just did the other glove off camera, and this is how I styled them, and that's my super easy strappy glove tutorial.